Erev Tov Kiryat Chaim. Good morning in Palo Alto. Greetings to friends of Israel around the United States, around the world. My name is Wayne Firestone. I'm the Executive Director of the America-Israel Friendship League, and I'm excited to be back with you again with yet another amazing story in the annals of the story of the Jewish people, the story of modern day Israel, and indeed the connection of the ancient Jewish people to the Jewish state. We're here today to explore a love affair between the state of Minnesota and some wonderful Midwestern folk who fell in love with the Ethiopians when they were in a period of plight and needed to leave. And that love has not diminished in any way ever since. We will be exploring today a topic of the integration of the Ethiopian community in Israel, and indeed both the ongoing challenges and opportunities for really understanding the great contributions that this community has made to Israel today. We're going to do that, frankly, with all of your love, with all your involvement. We'd love for you to share in the chat where you're calling in from, whether you're on Facebook or on Zoom, if you're with us live, and indeed maybe share a story from your own understanding and meetings with the Ethiopian community. When was the first time you met your first Ethiopian Jew? Did you meet them in Israel? Did you know this story? Tell us a little bit about it, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity at the end of the program to share some of your questions with the panel. We're so delighted today to have two perspectives of individuals who were both born in Gondar, Ethiopia, and both after their own challenging journey to get to Israel have become major leaders in the community and indeed in Israel today. We're so privileged today to have Dr. Avraham Nagisi, who got his BA and MA from Hebrew University and a PhD in education from Sussex University in England. He was a member of the 20th Israeli Knesset. He was a member of Knesset and chaired the Committee on Immigration and Absorption Affairs. He has a perspective that comes from both government and from civil society. He joins us today from Jerusalem. We have Shlomo Berihun, also from Gondar, who has been the chairperson of Tebeka, an advocacy group on behalf of Ethiopians in Israel. He got his BA and MA from Haifa University, where he's joining us today, and he has been the CEO of the David Foundation since 2014. And I loved seeing in your bio, Shlomo, that you came through Yamin Ord, nearby in the Haifa community, in a story that really is one that is so central to the absorption and integration of Ethiopians in Israel. A person with also a great deal of love, affection, and personal experience visiting Ethiopian communities. Rabbi Jewry Epstein is joining us also from Jerusalem. You can tell by the open shirt that he's feeling very Israeli today. And Rabbi Epstein, of course, is the Executive Vice President and CEO Emeritus of United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism. That's how many of us know of Rabbi Epstein. But what you may not know, and hopefully we'll learn a lot more about, is his role as president of the North American Conference on Ethiopian Jewry for over 8 years. We're so thrilled to have you with us today. And from Minnesota, we've got a trifecta, certainly a triple threat of leadership that has been so deeply and intimately involved in this issue. We're grateful to have Ted Flom, the CEO of the St. Louis Jewish Federation, who will be sharing with us a bit about the connection that is maintained today. We have Steve Hunegs from the Executive Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council for Minnesota and Dakotas, who has done advocacy for many years in Minnesota, as well as specifically for the Jewish community. And to sort of kick us off on this journey today and to sort of frame some of the historical connection of the state of Minnesota and the Ethiopian Jewish community is Harlan Jacobs. When Harlan and I first sat down over coffee in DC and sort of I got to hear this story directly from Harlan, my first reaction was, wow, what a great model for how Americans and Israelis have connected and bonded and showed real continuity around the people of Israel with this particular story. Harlan is a past president of the JCRC ADL of Minnesota and the Dakotas. He's held numerous positions of communal leadership, but he has been personally deeply involved in the Ethiopian Jewry issue since 1982 and has served as an officer and board member of the National Conference on Ethiopian Jewry. So Harlan, I'm going to turn over to you to help frame how we got here, a little bit on the history of this, and then we're going to turn over to Avram and Shlomo to update us on sort of where the community is today and what some of the challenges that they're dealing with.
Thank you, Wayne. It's an honor and a privilege to share this story with everyone today. Make a long story short, there were individuals here in Minnesota, what's affectionately known as flyover land, and on their own initiative and accord and their resourcefulness, they were able to set in motion events, a chain of events that led to a major airlift, a modern day exodus, if you will, back in 1991. And it all started here from Minnesota in what's also known affectionately as the land of the frozen chosen people. It began in Ethiopia in the 1960s when Baruch Tegenya, if we could have the slide for Baruch. Yes, this is the cover of a book done by a Canadian author. It's the biography of Baruch Tegenya. When he was a young boy in the mountainous area of Ethiopia, he and his grandfather were looking eastward, and his grandfather said to him, "Someday you will be in Jerusalem." And he took that to heart. And then the next slide, he made the acquaintance of William Bill Halpern of blessed memory. Bill Halpern was part of a modern day underground railway. By the way, he was an exceptional individual. At the age of 21, he had already earned a PhD from the University of California, Berkeley. And he decided that he was going to go to Africa. And we went to Africa. He learned about the Ethiopian Jews and he set out to meet them. He met Baruch. Baruch told him of the long of the long history of Ethiopian Jewish connection and their longing to go to Israel. And then when Bill got back, next slide, please. Bill Bill mentioned this to Stephen Shapiro. And before I forget, I want to mention that Bill died in a one-car crash of mysterious origin. He actually gave his life in the furtherance of the cause of the modern day exodus of the Ethiopian Jews. So he had told Stephen Shapiro about the Ethiopian Jews, and Steve, next slide, told his father, who was Rabbi Max A. Shapiro of blessed memory, the chief rabbi of Temple Israel here in Minneapolis. Stephen told his father about the Ethiopian Jews, and Rabbi Shapiro was a very learned man. And his immediate reaction was that he had heard stories about Ethiopian Jews, but he thought it was just hearsay, that it really wasn't true. And so Stephen told him what he had learned. And then Rabbi Shapiro, next slide, immediately told a member of Temple Israel's congregation, the Honorable Rudy Boschwitz, United States Senator for 2 terms. And Rudy Boschwitz, next slide, told then Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush about Ethiopian Jews. And in 1991, President George Herbert Walker Bush appointed Rudy Boschwitz as his shaliach, as his special emissary to negotiate the ransom, the $35 million ransom with Mengistu that involved a wire transfer to a Swiss bank account for the benefit of this despot and very terrible dictator, Mengistu. And on the next slide, you'll see a picture of our own Herman Markowitz, a member of my congregation, Adath Yeshurun in Minnetonka, Minnesota. Next to him, he's 94. His lovely wife, Nancy, passed away last year. He has a long-standing connection to the United Israel Appeal and the Federation Service, a consummate Jewish communal professional. And he's one of the unsung heroes of this event. And it's my honor to be able to tell the world after a long period of quiet reflection on this, that Herman was a guy behind the scenes who had to deal with the federal bureaucracy, the US Treasury Department and other agencies to, if you will, make it kosher to be able to transfer $35 million of US citizens' money for a ransom payment to a foreign dictator. And he did that quietly. It's only been known for the last couple of years that he made that important contribution behind the scenes. And we thank him and want to acknowledge his help. So those are the 6 degrees of separation from a barefoot Ethiopian Jewish boy in the mountainous hill region of Ethiopia who looked eastward toward Jerusalem and set in motion this wonderful sequence of events that helped pave the way for the airlift in 1991. So we're very proud of these people and wanted to share this story with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Harlan, for teeing this up for us. And I believe now, Shlomo, if you could share a little bit from your perspective in Jerusalem, both as a former member of Knesset and as well. I'm sorry, we're going to start with, yes, with Shlomo. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Wayne, and the American Israel Friendship League for providing me with the opportunity to speak about myself and the Ethiopian community in Israel. I'm delighted to be here with you all today. First, I thank you, Harlan, for mentioning the very important role the North American Jewish community played in our immigration. We are so very grateful for that. I believe, we, the Ethiopian community, believe your continued support in the absorption and integration process is critical for integration of the Ethiopian community into Israeli society. As Wayne introduced me, I came from Ethiopia to Israel in 1984 through Sudan as a part of Operation Moses when I was 12 years old. As a community, we underwent a very difficult journey. We initially believed we would arrive in Sudan within 2 weeks, but unfortunately, we ended up walking for 25 days. Along the way, we were robbed and suffered a lot from thirst and starvation. Upon finally arriving in Sudan, we had to hide our Jewish identity because at that time, Sudan was a hostile country to Israel. We suffered for 8 long months, and unfortunately, about 4,000 of our Jewish brothers and sisters perished in Sudan. Finally, we were airlifted by the IDF to Israel. Upon arriving to Israel, I was then sent to Yamin Or, a boarding school in Haifa. I later joined the IDF and served 3 years of significant military service. After the army, I attended and graduated from Haifa University. During my academic studies, like my friends, I was very active with the student body in helping Ethiopian students from different campuses across Israel. In parallel, my friends and I started an organization called Teveka, like Wayne said, which is a center for advocacy and legal aid for the Ethiopian community in Israel. In 1998, I joined the Shuttle organization, and within that framework, I worked as an organizational consultant that helped disadvantaged communities in Israel. 10 years ago, I joined my friend, Jonathan David, in his vision to create future leaders within the Ethiopian community in Israel. When I look back on my youth, I experienced many difficulties, and it was not an easy at all. Being a newcomer presented many challenges, such as language, adapting to a new mentality, new culture, and minimizing learning gaps. You know, most of Ethiopian community came from rural area in Ethiopia. Most of them didn't attend school. So we have to minimize our learning gaps. I couldn't imagine achieving what I have so far, let alone attending university. However, today I know with the right support and hard work, anything is possible. As a community, we have come a long way since our immigration. Today, we have doctors, lawyers, engineers, journalists, officers in the IDF, judges. We have over 4,000 university students. But alongside the accomplishments, we also have a lot of challenges. The majority of the Ethiopian community in Israel live in neighborhoods of low socioeconomic status, consisting of inadequate education systems, delinquency, crime, and the lack of role models. Israeli Ethiopian families, like my family, find themselves lacking the education and the networks necessary to find better jobs. This forces parents to work longer hours, which keeps them away from home and children left alone to wander the streets. Children who are already struggling have difficulty improving in school because they lack the academic support from their parents that more privileged children receive at home. The other challenge is, as you maybe know, discrimination and racism. Issues of discrimination and racism are constantly coming up and impacting Israeli Ethiopians, the way they see themselves and their future. I know firsthand that the solution for these challenges and putting an end to the cycle of poverty lies in education and higher education. We at Leaders of the Future and David Foundation believe that education is the key for social and economic mobility, and that is why we have been investing in academic excellence for our youth. Over the past years, we have developed a successful model to support Ethiopian youth and young adults. We support Israeli Ethiopian youth from 5th grade and continues through high quality matriculation, meaningful military service, and higher education focused in engineering, science, and medicine. Both the Leaders of the Future Youth Program and the Advanced Higher Education Program provide a year-round comprehensive framework that empowers Israeli Ethiopian youth and assists them in reaching their highest potential. We run this program in collaboration with Technion, Oranim College, and other universities in Israel. I think I stop here. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer in the Q&A session. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Shlomo. Yes, we're already getting questions, and we will come back. Let me now go to Dr. Negisi in Jerusalem and hear a little bit about the community from your perspective and the different hats of advocacy that you've worn.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to express also that we are very grateful, the community, for your vital role on fulfilling the dreams of thousands of Ethiopian Jewry to reach to Israel and being proud citizens of the state of Israel. Thank you, the Minnesota state and other federations that started the rescue mission, even in the 1970s and 1980s. Your vital role is really enable us today that, as my brother said, we have achievements and we have also challenges in Israel. I born and grew up in Ethiopia. In my early age, as a child, I was a shepherd, like any other Ethiopian countryside child in one of the villages where I grew up. I was a shepherd, and then my parents sent me to school. I completed high school in Gondar City. I migrated to Israel in 1985. I was located in Jerusalem, where I live now, also in Jerusalem, in one of the absorption centers, Gilo, where I studied Hebrew, Ulpan, Hebrew language. And soon after, I joined the Hebrew University, where I have received my academic studies. In my journey into integration into Israeli society, I wanted to be a role model for my community in three areas. One is in education. Education is a key factor, as we all know, for advancement of any person or any society. And when there is an opportunity and also personal efforts, there is always achievement. And then really, I received the opportunity by the state of Israel, and I own 5 academic degrees, including PhD. So I showed through that to my community members that we can do it. We can do it if we get the opportunity and put our personal efforts. Receiving opportunity is not enough, but we have to also put our own efforts. This is the message I give to my young people in our community. The second is to be activists and advocacy, doing advocacy activities on behalf of our community. We should not forget where we come from. We should not forget those did not get the opportunity and reach to the level that we reach. So we have to pull them. So being an advocate and activist for many years, I established non-governmental organization using the democratic values that we have in Israel, cooperating with other non-governmental organizations, both in the United States and Israel. We have moved really hard issues and forced to change policies in immigration and integration. And Through this, thousands Israeli reached to Israel and also achieving in the integration journey. The third area is politics. As a citizen of the state of Israel, we have all rights to be part of decision makers. If we involve ourselves in using the democratic values what we have, we can be also decision makers. So I proved that being involved in politics and joining one of the political party, the Likud, and been elected in the primaries, and I've been in 2015 elected to be a member of parliament, a member of Knesset in Israel, where I served as chairman of the Immigration, Absorption, and Diaspora Affairs. And I also served as a chairman of the caucus on Israel-African relationship. Through these activities, we have changed different issues, bringing the government to decide and continuing of the remaining Ethiopian Jewish community and the integration process. Therefore, these are the main activities which can be a lesson to our young people. Coming to the challenges that to our community, I focus on 3 challenges. There are many challenges, but there are, in my experience of being activist in non-governmental sectors and being part of the government in the Knesset and the government, I came to conclusion that we need to focus 3 main issues. One is to continue the rescue mission that has been started many years ago and bring the remaining Ethiopian Jews, those who are waiting in a horrible condition, in a very difficult situation in Gondar and Addis Ababa. Our community members, our brothers and sisters, are in a very critical condition today, especially when there is a military conflict within Ethiopia, the internal conflict between the federal government and the TPLF in Tigray, and that is close to Gondar, where our big majority of the community are waiting. So they are in danger because of physically they are in danger, and they are also suffering from separating from their family members. COVID-19 also make worse their life. These people are unseparated part of our community. 80% of them, they have first-degree families in Israel, brothers, sisters, parents, sons, and daughters. And these members of our community are waiting for many years, and it is time that all the Jewish people, like the Jewish community in North America, unitedly rescued the community in Operation Moses, Operation Solomon. It is time to do Operation Solomon #2. If we cannot rescue them now, tomorrow it will be late. So our family members are in danger. So I use this opportunity to call to every person that to continue rescue mission of the remaining Ethiopian Jews and support them while they are waiting in education, health service, and humanitarian assistance. Regarding in Israel, as my brother Shlomo explained, education is the second challenge that I see that we need to focus. If we put efforts on education from high school, university, this will really bring the community up in the fall, and this is the way to struggle to fight discrimination and racism. The third one is employment. Those who cannot join the universities and colleges, vocational training is a solution. If we give them vocational training and job placement, so that will decrease the number of unemployment among the community and give them the job opportunity, which gives them self-sufficient, self-support, and educate their children. Therefore, I think that this American-Israel relationship organization, which you are really doing a lot, the existence of Israel as a Jewish homeland, as a Jewish for every Jew, wherever it comes from, gives an opportunity to live as a free and democratic life. We need to continue to give an opportunity for the disadvantaged communities in Israel. I would like to say again, once again, thank you for all what you have done and what you are doing and what you will do. You have really changed the vision of thousands of Ethiopian Jews to a reality. So thank you so much.
Well, Avram and Shlomo, as I listen to each of your stories and think about your criteria of role modeling, of advocacy, and of political activism, it is really a tribute to your efforts leading this community, that you are the head of this advocacy effort, that you are really sharing with us what allies and supporters can now do to be helpful. And so that's a perfect segue to my colleague, Rabbi Epstein, really the leading advocacy effort in North America, the North American Conference on Ethiopian Jewry. Rabbi Epstein, if you could share with us now from your experiences, both with visiting the community that remains in Ethiopia, and I know you have some photos from your trips that you can share with us, as well as your intimate involvement with the community in Israel and its leadership and educational efforts. There's a great deal of interest, I think, in learning about how we can be better advocates on behalf of these issues that your colleagues have raised.
Thank you, Wayne. The first time I went to, well, it's actually the second time. The first time I went to Gondar in Ethiopia, I was amazed. I really didn't know what to expect in terms of the Jewish community. You put up the first couple of slides. I saw people, this is an afternoon service. They're gathered for an afternoon service, and men and women, there were 1,000 men, there were 700 women, and I thought, wow, this is really impressive. I'm sure this is just a one-time appearance. And the next day I came back to show the next two slides. The people were there again, and mothers with their babies on their backs, wanting to be with the community, not only to pray as Jews, but also to be with others. If you show the next slide, please. The community had to get together and has to get together for solidarity. These are people who have derived inspiration and hope from each other. And so they come, they learn, they talk, they think, and they hope. But as much as they hunger for inspiration and spirituality, they also hunger for food. The next slide, please. The North American Conference on Ethiopian Jewry and its tireless director, Barbara Ribicoff-Gorton, who was the founder, by the way, set up food pantries. This is a food pantry in Gondar. And you can see the children lined up here to get food. What they didn't know is that there was no food that day. It was a shame, but the financial support had disappeared. And these were young people who were looking to other people to give them the food to sustain themselves. We had to turn them away. If you turn to the next slide, this is a typical lunch that when we have food, and 80% of the time we're able to have food, this is what we are able to give: a roll, a potato, an egg, 2 eggs, banana, carrot. This is the food. And as dramatic as this was for me, I was basically torn when I saw the children splitting their food so that they would have food to take home for themselves in the evening for dinner. Without this, they would be without food until the next morning. Next slide, please. When I visited Ethiopia, whether it's in Gondar or Addis Ababa, I look to meet people who are not able to get to the synagogue and not able to get to the center. So I asked people to bring me to some of the homes where people live. This is a woman who lives in Gondar, a 95-year-old woman who said to me, "I'm here. These are my members of my family." She showed me the pictures. She lived in a one-room hovel. And she has not yet received permission to go to Israel. Her children are there. She will never see her grandchildren unless she gets there quickly. We have to solve the problem of family reunification, because families don't necessarily go as a whole group to Israel. It depends on the visa. And this requires will of the Israeli government to bring them and money to support their coming, because it costs significant amount of money to absorb them. Next slide, please. The children in Ethiopia are especially challenged when they arrive in Israel. They have to adapt to a new language and to a new culture. One of the things I was struck by when I visited classes in Ethiopia is that most of the learning was by rote. They copied what the teacher wrote on the board. They can memorize, so they learn 3 times 3 is 9. But but they haven't been taught necessarily to think and to reason. So while they know that 3 times 3 is 9, if you ask them, 3 girls each have 4 apples, how many apples do they have in total? They may have a blank look on their face, not because they can't think, but because they haven't been taught. When we, in the North American Conference on Ethiopian Jewry, wanted to try to help Ethiopian Jews in Israel, we focused on young children. We formed a series of programs called Limudia, which provided special help for Ethiopian children who were trying to be absorbed in their classes. Next slide, please. One of the things that, besides the teaching that we give them and the extra help and the remedial help, one of the things we found is that most Israeli children had computers or tablets, and they used them at home, they used them at school, but the Ethiopian children didn't have any. So through the generosity of donors in North America, we were able to supply all of the children in the Limudia, all of the Ethiopian children, with tablets so that they could be able to learn at the same degree and the same level as their peers, their classmates. This is a picture of them getting their first iPads. We had to show them how to turn it on, how to open it, how to use it. This helped families in ways that we could not imagine because the families didn't have internet. We had to give them internet, and it saved them the ability to keep their children learning during the time of COVID. The Israeli children had internet in their homes, so they were able to learn. They were able to continue classes. It was only when we were able to help Ethiopian children and their families get internet that they were on the same level. So there's plenty that we can do. There's plenty to do. The challenge for us is to remember that there are people like us that have a different color skin and a different background who want to be Jews and want to be in Israel like their dream and have their dream come true.
Thanks, Rabbi Epstein, both for sharing a little bit of what the challenges are now, but also just really giving us an insight from the bottom up about the community. I think a lot of people are unfamiliar with the community in Israel. I'm sorry, in that still remains in Ethiopia and that have dreams and aspirations to join their families, which obviously presents some real questions as to what are the obstacles that are getting in the way of that now. So hopefully we'll have a little time to return to that. I want to switch back to Minnesota to bookend this part of the panel conversation. And Ted, I know in Minnesota, this is not just a story of the past. There's a continuing relationship, a continuing love and interest in the Jewish community of the Ethiopian community. And I wonder if you could share a little bit from your perch today about how you view the community today.
Well, one, thank you for allowing me to participate in this incredible panel and for the stories. The St. Paul Federation has a history of reaching out to Jews in need locally as well as overseas. And we have a special connection to the Jewish community of Ethiopia. As Harlan Jacobs had mentioned, Rabbi Raskus helped spearhead our first campaign for Ethiopian Jewry. This is in 1991, and at that time, he embraced the mission and the values of Kol Israel, Arazim, we're all responsible for one another. And we were able to raise $600,000 back in 1991. And just to put that in perspective, that's equivalent to $1.2 million today. The story of Ethiopian Jewry, from our perspective, is one of inspiration as well as challenge. It is an inspiring story to see what the Jewish people can do when we come together as a community, and what we have done in Minnesota was incredible. But we also know that it's a challenge because the success of the absorption of Ethiopian Jewry is really a reflection of the success of the Zionist project, of Zionism itself, and the ability to absorb and rescue Ethiopian Jews is a mission that the Federation, the St. Paul Federation, does embrace. We continue to support this effort because we know that it's not a finished project. And part of our support is through our partner agencies of the Joint Distribution Committee and the Jewish Agency for Israel and the Ethiopian National Project. As we reflect on the opportunities and the challenges, we know that much more has to be done. And we will continue working with partner agencies to make sure that we accomplish our mission so that every Ethiopian Jew who wants to make Aliyah is able to do that. And each one that makes Aliyah is absorbed and welcomed into Israel and provide the skills, the resources that they need to be part of the Israeli people and make sure that this is a successful absorption and rescue effort. We're very happy and pleased to be partnering with the American Israel Friendship League, with the North American Association of Ethiopian Jewry, and with the other partners who are here. And I have so much respect for Avram and Shlomo for what they've contributed to Israel and to the Ethiopian people. And it's wonderful to be partnering with them.
Steve, if we had been having this discussion even 2 or 3 years ago, first of all, it wouldn't be on Zoom because nobody really understood what Zoom was. And secondly, the sensitivity of, I think, all Americans, but certainly in the American Jewish community, to issues of immigration and absorption, to issues of discriminatory treatment against people with dark skin, we're not as heightened as they were today. And I'm wondering if, from your community relations work that you're deeply involved in, if you feel that this is a moment where this issue perhaps can gain greater visibility and heightened sense of importance as a result of the climate here in the United States over the last few years.
Thank you, Wayne. And first of all, thank you to the American Israel Friendship League for all that it does for advocacy for Israel and its powerful, robust United States-Israel relationship, and to your entire team. I want to braid together 2 quick stories here for everybody participating today. First of all, thank you to the AIFL for honoring Hubert Humphrey and the family upcoming at the gala on November 17th. People may know that the year of Israel's creation was the year Hubert Humphrey was elected to the United States Senate, and the two facts are inextricably linked as Hubert Humphrey became one of the great advocates for the Jewish people and for Israel. When Hubert Humphrey went to the National Democratic Convention in 1948, he was thrust into the national spotlight with the following sentence: "It is time for the Democratic Party to move out of the shadow of human states' rights and move forthrightly into the bright sunshine of human rights." And when we're talking about the Jews of Ethiopia, of course, this is essentially a human rights story, both leaving Ethiopia, making Aliyah, and then having all the resources necessary for successful absorption into Israeli society. And David Ben-Gurion, as people know, and the roughly 40 people who signed the Declaration of Independence of Israel, wrote, quote, "Our call goes out to the Jewish people all over the world to rally to our side in the task of immigration and development." Fast forward 72 years, Double Chai and Kasha, maybe you can post this picture. And this encapsulates it all, or the hope and the vision and the possibilities and the potential. This is Israel's Deputy Consul General from Chicago, Ariel Reda, and I had the pleasure of working with Ariel while she was stationed in Chicago here we were going to Pierre, South Dakota, the capital of South Dakota, for a very important moment. This is Kasha with our board member Stephen Rosenthal on the right, and then Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota. The governor was signing an executive order forbidding forbidding the state of South Dakota from doing business with any company that was participant in boycott, divestment, and sanctions for Israel. And there was Ariella here 10 miles from the Missouri River representing Israel. Of course, here she is of Ethiopian background, of an Ethiopian family, living the Zionist dream, being a diplomat for Israel. So we can see this potential, this opportunity, having all of us advocating for Israel in South Dakota's state capital. And it's really sort of a remarkable moment, which captures and encapsulates so much of what we're trying to accomplishment. And, you know, you can sort of summarize it by thinking about that a diplomat whose family is from the Horn of Africa, representing Israel in a state capital where the West begins, the Missouri River, doing so much important work for all of us. And when I see Abraham and when I see Shlomo, Harlan, who's been an indomitable voice for Ethiopian Jews throughout the upper Midwest, Wayne, my colleague Ted Flom, everybody that's involved in this call, I know that we as the Jewish people, Kol Yisrael, can finish the job of bringing Ethiopia's Jews, the remaining Ethiopian Jews, to Israel. Rabbi Epstein and those remarkable pictures that you're showing, your hands and feet and spirit are so much involved in every aspect of helping Ethiopia's Jews. But again, thank you to the AIFL for everything that you do. Again, to Abraham and Shlomo for being great leaders of the Ethiopian Jewish community and for Israel, and to everybody who's participating in this forum. And may we go forth from strength to strength and use this as an opportunity to finish the job.
Thanks so much, Steve, and thanks for the shout out on our 50-year anniversary. And Mel in our chat is pointing out that 72 is actually quadruple high. So we have even more things to celebrate this year. Let me stay on that note for a moment as I come back to the panel here. Even just looking at that picture of Ariella, who we had the privilege on an earlier webinar that we ran to have her go toe-to-toe it was, I believe, last summer, not this summer, the prior summer, you know, in a period of tremendous civil strife, and her voice and her presence and own, you know, sense of self-identity as a young Israeli representing the state of Israel was really quite remarkable at that particular moment of social protest in this country, and really it really spoke volumes to what it meant to have this next generation of Ethiopian second generation leaders who are now speaking with their own voices. And so I guess my question, actually we have a question from the audience from John about what are the positive trends for this next generation of Ethiopians who have grown up in Israel in terms of their assuming leadership roles and also growth in their own socioeconomic status within Israel. So maybe we'll start with Abraham on that question.
In 2015, there was a demonstration of the young people, organized and led by the young people. And the question was raised by them was that we want to integrate fully, which means that we want to receive equal opportunities in employment, education, housing, and to be part of the Israeli society. That was the demand. And I was a member of Knesset at that time and the head of the immigration absorption. And we did a discussion on the issue. And the solution for that is to help the young people to direct them to science and technology education, because most of them they are graduated in history, sociology, social work, and which is a challenge to get job on those fields. And but if they go to science and technology, they study engineers and medicine. The high tech really takes them easily, and they can receive job. Therefore, the solution, what we see is really is to give them an opportunity to go to study in science and technology. That is why what Shlomo mentioned, the Leaders of the Future organization supported by David Foundation is really doing the right thing in order to increase the number of the students in the universities, so that with science, technology, so that they will be really strong leaders in all aspects, in education, business, diplomacy. They can be spokespeople, they can be good leaders, role models, not only for the Ethiopian Jewish community in Israel. Will be an ambassadors for the state of Israel and for the global Jewish people. Because the success of these young people in this community is really a challenge, not only for the Ethiopian Jewish community. It should be a challenge for the Israeli government, the society, and the global Jewish community. Because these young people, they need to have an opportunity for quality and which will give them, which will empower them to be good ambassadors and leaders.
Shlomo, can I get your take on where you see this next generation going, and who are the kids that are coming out of Yamin Ord and having had your peers and their children? Where do you see this next generation?
First and foremost, I definitely agree with my friend, Dr. Abraham Neguse. There is a great potential among the Ethiopian youth in Israel. I work in the framework Leaders of the Future. We meet with young Ethiopians everywhere in Israel. Today, I don't know if you know, we have over 300 Ethiopian engineering students studying from all over the Israeli higher institutions. I'm so optimistic. They are so energetic. They have motivation. They don't succeed in Israeli society, but we have to give them the opportunity. One of the obstacles, one of the barriers for Ethiopians to get into the universities is psychometric exam. And the university authorities, they are trying to facilitate, to alleviate the acceptance for Ethiopian community. For example, in Technion, they are doing a great job with Ethiopian students in their framework. Today in Technion, we have 45 engineering students studying in various faculties in Technion. That is one hand. The other hand is we have, as Dr. Abraham said, we have a lot of academicians within the Ethiopian community. They find difficulties in finding employment. Here, I think the government of Israel and the civic society has to make their efforts to integrate Ethiopian academies into government ministries and municipalities. As Avram said, vocational training and the academics in the fields of high tech and industry is very, very important. And we have also to assist them in developing entrepreneurship of Ethiopian academics in Israel and even in Ethiopia. There is now opportunities in Ethiopia to come and invest. I hope after the war, some leaders, young leaders, also go to make business in Ethiopia and make a strong relationship between Ethiopia and Israel.
Well, those are really helpful insights about the next generation. We're coming up on the top of the hour. Rabbi Epstein, let me give you the last word on this for folks in Minnesota and indeed from folks around the world that want to get involved in more advocacy around these issues. What is what's your advice to them, and how could they get involved?
There are plenty of organizations that will benefit from people who are willing to contribute time, energy, and funds. The North American Jewish Conference on Ethiopian Jewry, it's www.nacroej.org will benefit. Work with your local synagogues and get synagogues to take on projects for Ethiopian Jewry. One of the things that I'm struck by every time I try to tell a story about Ethiopian Jewry is that people say, oh, how much, what is there? There's nothing, there's a few Ethiopian Jews in Israel. The Ethiopian Jewry is done making Aliyah. We've got to get the story out there, and each person who was on this call, if you will just tell 2 or 3 other people, it will make a difference. But there's so much we can do. It's not enough to wring our hands. We have to really try to support the people who need our help.
Well, this is definitely not a group we've gathered today that wrings their hands. They raise their hands and they speak their minds, and they do so with the kind of intentionality, I think, that really is channeled by what we heard from both Avram and Shlomo today, the leadership from the Ethiopian Jewish community in Israel, asking us for help, asking us to be strong allies going forward and to help address their issues, both of immigration and integration in Israeli society. Thanks everyone for being with us today. For those of you that are new, we do this twice a week, every Wednesday and Sunday. Coming up this Sunday, we have an amazing program about secular religious relations and interactions, about building bridges between very different communities, the Haredi and the secular. You don't want to miss this one. We have an Israel Prize winner, Adina Bar Shalom, in conversation with a heralded innovator in Israeli high-tech society, Dr. Yossi Vardi. In conversation, it will really be something for those of you that are interested in the nuances of Israeli society and integration. I think this is a logical next step for you. So come join us. Everyone have a great week, and thanks to all our panelists, Harlan for organizing this group, and indeed for our friends in Minnesota, really giving us a model of what state by state, different states can do in order to promote friendship, in order to really celebrate what it means to have common values between our 2 great democracies. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.